Hello everyone, my name is Gabby, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super review. This time reviewing episode 51. Bulma explains the Cell's time machine was given to her by Future Trunks just after the defeat of Cell. Using the notes from her future self, she thinks that she can get it running again. In the meantime, Trunks realizes Mai is in fact the younger version of the same Mai who helped him face Black in his own timeline. They reminisce, Goku and Vegeta try to train, and Beerus and Whis start to think that Black's ki seems awfully familiar to them. So, what did I like about this episode? Well, first of all, surprisingly, the continuity. Something you may not know is that Dragon Ball Super, from the start of the Future Trunks arc, has gotten a new addition to the writing team, one Atsuhiko Tomioka, who apparently used to work as doing writing for stuff like Pokemon. But I don't know if it's this person's fault or the fact that they've just been in this arc, they've just been paying way more attention to continuity. But holy crap, they are paying so much attention to continuity. And the fact that, obviously last episode we were talking about how that Bulma took out the time machine that Cell used, and they're going to rework that time machine and fix it all up to get that one working again. But they could have just left it at that, but no, they didn't just do that. They gave a full-on detailed explanation as to what happened to the time machine, where Cell's time machine came from, and also why Bulma has the time machine in the first place. Because if you looked at the series, apparently Trunks takes both of those time machines, his time machine and Cell's time machine. So instead of just kind of glossing over that idea, they give a full-on explanation as to why Bulma has the time machine, and saying that just before Trunks goes back into the time, Bulma asks to have that time machine to sort of examine and stuff, see that maybe if she could recreate it sometime in the future, and then she kind of forgot. But and they completely make a full-on newly made flashback scene of Bulma and Future Trunks talking, and it's the just before Trunks goes back to his time, because they have the same outfits that they have in the moment that before Trunks goes to it in the time machine, including the black armbands that everyone is wearing as a tribute to Goku. That is some serious, we're going to look through this series bit by bit and make sure everything makes sense. Geez. Dragon Ball Super generally didn't really do that, and now it's doing that to a ridiculous degree, and I'm like, wow, something has definitely changed, and it might be that new writer. Who knows? The fact that they completely address something that honestly only the hardcore fans and the nitpickers would actually realize in the first place. It was also nice to see some of the humans go and try to attempt to fight Black in the flashbacks to Future Trunks' timeline. I mean, too often do we see in this series the fact that the idea that just ordinary humans are just lambs to the slaughter, and they don't necessarily try to object to anything, and it's always up to the aliens to save the humans from their own planet getting destroyed, without only being subverted, maybe the spirit bomb kind of Genki Dama thing at the end. So seeing the humans take action and actually try to defend themselves and actually try to come up with ways of defeating Black, even if it was just kind of a flashback exposition scene, I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a really nice idea. Also, it was just a little bit kind of almost a throwaway line at this point, but the fact that Black seems to have kind of motivations to destroying the humans. The fact he seems to have something about that the humans were the gods' only failed creation, and he wants to destroy them because that's going to bring peace to the universe or something like that. I mean, I don't exactly know it for sure. I mean, I'm sure we're probably going to find out more about this later on, but that is actually really interesting. The fact that Black seems to have an actual motivation where he thinks that he's actually morally right in this point. He thinks that he's doing the right decision. He's doing the right thing, as opposed to everyone else being oh, you're killing people, that's a bad thing. I mean, if you really think about it, if they continue this angle, Black could be one of the most complex villains that Dragon Ball has done to this point. Because most villains in Dragon Ball, literally almost all of the villains in Dragon Ball, can kind of just be narrowed down to the fact that they're evil because they like being evil. I mean, the most complex villain motivation we get in the series is basically just saying that, yeah, I'm going to kill people because I have fun killing people. So if Black is one of those villains who's obviously you could say it's generic by normal story standards, but by Dragon Ball standards, this is really interesting, and I want to see where this goes. As for what I didn't like about this episode, pretty much kind of the pacing. I honestly don't think that the pacing of the series has actually been very slow, but the fact is, in this episode, if you really think about it, there wasn't that much accomplished. It was mostly just exposition, and then Trunks kind of telling my stuff, but also telling us stuff that we kind of already implied when Trunks went into this the whole like flashback of the things in his time. We didn't really learn that much new except for the fact that humans also tried to fight Black. But I kind of thought that they could have maybe given us a bit more explanations, like maybe given us an explanation as to how Trunks and Mai met and like how they got close to each other or something like that. But instead, they just kind of do a pretty sort of generic kind of, oh, they try to defeat Black and it didn't work, and then Trunks tries to fight Black and it doesn't work, and then Mai saves him, and then they have a bit of a bonding moment. I thought they would have given us like a bit more of an explanation as to what happened to Mai and how she ended up the way she did and stuff like that, which they didn't, and that was a bit of a shame, and it makes this episode a little bit like pointless. You can kind of probably skip it if you really know what's going to happen. I mean, I don't mind having slow pacing. I don't even mind having episodes that might not necessarily accomplish much, but it is just kind of interesting, especially considering how like breakneck speed the Resurrection F arc and the Universe 6 tournament were. But this time they're taking it a lot slower. And if you just like ask everyone who's just been watching the last 2 arcs of Super, it's pretty different and pretty interesting that they are taking such a slow pace with this. As for next episodes, oh boy, I don't think I am both as terrified and as excited for one episode of Dragon Ball Super so far in this entire year of production. I'm excited because it's an episode about future Trunks and Gohan, and there actually seems like this time they're actually going to go and connect it to the fact that Gohan was Future Trunks' mentor in their future timeline, which is something that the Cell Saga never really addressed between those two characters in the main timeline, which I thought they always should have. And I'm terrified because this episode, out of basically every episode of Dragon Ball Super, this could be the episode where they give an explanation as to, well, first of all, how Gohan is the way he is now, and second of all, this could be the episode where they really explain full out to us that Gohan is not going to be relevant in Dragon Ball Super, that he is perfectly content with being a scholar, and by being a scholar they use that as an excuse for that he is not going to get involved in any fighting related plots ever, which means he's not going to get any screen time in Dragon Ball Super. That could happen. That could realistically happen. I don't want that to happen because Gohan is like my favorite character and I totally want him to at least show up to these stories, and if they use that excuse, he might not show up ever again. That's why I'm terrified. So that was Dragon Ball Super episode 51. I always sound like a bit of a broken record lately because, I mean, not much really progressed in terms of the plot, but there were some really nice character interactions, and I really enjoy the way this story is progressing. It seems like it could be really interesting, especially the stuff with Black this episode. It seems to think like things could be way more interesting than I initially thought they would be. And actually a bit more subtle, which considering this is an enemy who looks like an evil Goku, having things be a bit more subtle is something I was not expecting. But this episode seems to be implying that. Perhaps the pace of the last few episodes has been a little slow, and if next episode both wasn't a Gohan episode, and also it seems like the plot is progressing a little bit more in that episode as well, I think I would have started getting a bit sick of it and wanted things to start happening like really like immediately. But at this point it's just like, maybe things dragged on a little bit more than they should have, but I still really enjoyed everything they put in it. And I've been really enjoying this arc, and it's been for 5 episodes so far. Everything's been really enjoyable. So I am so looking forward to next episode, and I'm looking forward and I'm terrified about what they're going to do, but we'll see what happens next week. And if it's something I don't like, I guess I'll tell you guys about it. So this is Gabby, signing out, and I'll see you all next week. Bye guys!